Yes, and we are starting it off fast. We've already got bans coming out. Wukong, Trundle, Poppy, all taken off the board as junglers. The Varus as well, alongside the Galio and the Aurora. Some mid lane bans, potential flex top lane bans there as well. A lot of things left up. Yunara is definitely one of them, but with quite a few champions getting changed over the course of this patch, you know, there is a question about, you know, what's the priority going to be? I think notably something like Pantheon is up and available. I would be interested to see if that ends up being taken, but it is the Yunara that's locked in first for JackeyLove. Glad we highlighted him because he's going to have a pretty big role here in Game 1.
And we saw a couple of those clips in both our highlight package and the one the LPL put out of him on this champion. Seems like even though it's one of the newest ones here in League of Legends, JackeyLove, who's been in the league for 8 years at this point, still able to put together solid performances on this pick. In response, NIP gonna lock in the Rumble. Did receive a couple of nerfs here in this recent patch. We are playing on 25-17, but still a very powerful champion overall. The Equalizer as strong as ever. Just maybe a little bit of a tougher time in the laning phase and against, you know, champions that can stack a little bit more resistances.
Yeah, it's definitely much harder countered by tanks now, which I think is healthy. I'm happy to see that Rumble is finally maybe not, you know, 1A in the top lane, but certainly does open the door for something like a Sion here for 369 that he's been really successful on throughout a lot of this year. We'll see if they want to go for playmakers first. It is going to be that Nico locked in. Now that you see the Kai'Sa, you want to make sure you have something that can really punish the aggressive nature that Leave is going to have to play with in the back end of this game. I think Nico does that at a really high level. Hong has been a really big playmaking threat, and it's not the Sion, it's actually going to be the Ornn as the lock-in here. I kind of like this. You know, Sion has been 369 his most played champion, but I like saving this for potentially later on in the series as well. Sion, especially once you get some of these really high damage champions out of the game, things like Kai'Sa and Rumble can really become a problem in games 2 and 3. So the Ornn going to be the tank of choice, and the Nautilus going to be paired up with the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, surprised to not see a Braum get picked up in response here for Niket, but you just want the added aggression here in the 2v2 here for Leave and Niket, so they're going to go for the Kai'Sa Nautilus. Obviously, against the Yunara Nico, that has set up our bot lane and our top lane. That means we have mid jungles left here in our final second phase. And we can already see those junglers being targeted. Surprised the Pantheon made it all the way down here, but that's kind of the way the meta shifted at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think people have really fallen out of love with Pantheon in terms of just being this game-breaking threat. I still believe he's very strong, but so many junglers are still on the board. Things like Xin Zhao, Jarvan, a lot of options. Wukong was already taken off the board. You know, even something like a Viego that's really been like a comfort pick for Naiyou if they want to try and play through him. I imagine that jungle pick might be saved for R5 in this particular instance. It's actually going to be the Nefiri taken away from Kanavi. We did see TN looking very good on that in the previous series, so excited to see how that ends up breaking down, but, you know, I would expect this to be a 4th and final jungle ban. You know, a lot of options on the table, but the Viego stands out to me, maybe even something like the Lee Sin, if you wanted to go for aggressive tendencies.
Speaking of, you know, things that go well with aggressive junglers, Ryze still on the board, has not been banned away. I'd imagine could be an option for TES here, but instead they're really targeting Naiyou. The Skarner was another pick that did very well for himself in split number 3, but leaving up that signature champion for Doinb is definitely a scary sight. Gonna be Jarvan though, here for Naiyou. Not the carry champion, but it seems like they got a lot of damage already on NAP's side.
I mean, it creates the Rage Cage. There you go. Equalizer on top of the Jarvan ult. That's always a good feeling. You have a Kai'Sa to be able to take advantage of the dive. Overall, this is, you know, a really great setup for NIP, and quite frankly, it's pretty easy to execute on. It's not the most, like, elaborate comp in the world. If you get a little bit of gold, you could really capitalize pretty quickly in this draft. But the question is, what is Top Esports going to answer? And they're going to answer very aggressively. It's going to be Kanavi's Qiyana coming out here. Presumably, I guess, it could, theoretically be Creme's, but likely going into the jungle here, and I'm just so excited that we're starting to see these carry assassins come into the jungle because they're so fun to watch, Grapes.
Oh yeah, I mean, it just brings me back a couple years to see Qiyana Annie be locked in at the mid jungle 2v2 here for Top Esports. It's gonna be fun to watch. Gonna be a Sion mid lane here to answer into the Annie for Doinb. This is OG Doinb play, picking a tank in the mid lane. Made his name on it, and this is a pick that got him some world championships back in the day. Very curious to see this one get locked in. And hey, you talked about maybe that Sion being an option later on. Not anymore, as NIP have created a very interesting composition for themselves.
Grapes, I'm in love with this draft from NIP. I think this is so scary when you're looking down the barrel for Top Esports. You have a mid game where you spike incredibly hard, where Annie and Qiyana and Nico really want to try and make plays, and if you can get gold on Yunara, you're in a good spot. Outside of that, Uh-oh, things get really scary really fast. I think you're looking at 3 lanes that I really like for NIP. I think you're looking at some great scaling. This Scion's going to be very dangerous. Shout out Insanity. Scion mid, always a really fun thing to see and to view. And so excited to see this. But honestly, they're cooking in draft. And I think this is a pretty nice meal they're cooking up.
The only thing is that NIP are very short range now that they have a Kai'Sa and a Scion in their mid and AD carry positions. And that is very scary if you're playing up against a champion like Yunara, who once transcended definitely can have a lot to say about NIP's semifinals against Weibo Gaming. Awaits the winner of this one as we head on to the Rift for the start of our second series of the day on LPL English. And very early on, we've got a level 1 onto Kanavi, stepping too far forward and getting welcomed by the anchor of Niket. Couldn't even get past the Gyos. That's a good start for NIP. They get first blood.
That's the best case scenario for NIP, I would argue. Not only do you get a free kill onto the Qiyana at level 1, which is great, the kill goes to Leave on the Kai'Sa. This is perfect. All of a sudden, this laning phase that I already think is actually okay, more than okay, for the Kai'Sa and the Nautilus actually becomes really scary with that extra gold. This is huge for NIP to be able to start picking up victories in the early game and really be able to push that lead.
I mean, you couldn't have written up better for NIP. The comp that wants to scale. You have the Kai'Sa, you have the Scion mid lane, and you know, if you can get to that point, it'd be really, really good. Now, Leave has that extra dagger coming back into lane, an extra potion presumably as well. Very good position for this 2v2, which is going to get poked out a little bit. You're overall going to be feeling confident here for Ninjas of Pyjamas. A great start for them against, of course, your best team of the Split 3 regular season.
Yeah, NIP definitely underdogs in this series, not only in terms of public perception, but in terms of how their splits have gone, how their years have gone. It's a great start, though, and a lot of damage is going to get put down on Hong.
Actually, the lethal tempo pop by JackeyLove, so he's able to dish out some extra damage on those auto attacks, taking Niket down to about 300 HP. Despite that first kill, still going to be early push. No surprise here for the TES bottom lane, as they have both junglers pushing away from them, which is a good sign for JackeyLove and Hong. They're going to be in this isolated 2v2 for quite a while. Unless Naiyou goes for a 3-camp gank.
Oh, I love this. If he's able to pull this off, that's huge.
Yeah, Leave immediately pops the cleanse, going very aggressive on a JackeyLove, who does not have his barrier yet. The EQ flash follow from Naiyou will seal JackeyLove's fate. He goes down, and it's 2-0 quick for NIP.
A brilliant, brilliant move there by Naiyou to be able to capitalize on the bot side. That's exactly how you need to play this 2v2 once Leave has an advantage, and it's very well played by both Leave and Niket as well. The flash for Naiyou to be able to secure the kill. It's all beautiful. Kanavi's going to be able to take away some camps for this, but it's still a massive, massive win for NIP, and they are very, very much in the driver's seat already early on.
We have devolved into chaos here already in game number 1, 3 minutes into our second series, as Kanavi's going for a bit of an invade, given that Naiyou went for the bot lane gank after just clearing his bottom side. He's going to get himself both the Raptors and the Krugs. And that's a pretty good win here in terms of the experience, in terms of the gold here on Kanavi specifically. But you just got 2 kills on your bottom lane. This is great for NIP.
Yeah, I mean, this is a phenomenal play. This flash is gorgeous from Naiyou to be able to catch JackeyLove out, and this is what you need to do. It's not just about getting the Kai'Sa ahead. It's making sure the Yunara doesn't feel comfortable laning and has to be a bit more worried. JackeyLove, you know, sitting at level 3, still a level up here on Niket and Leave, just because of the way that, of course, the early laning phase goes here, but it's really about making sure that your bot lane's in a better position to fight these skirmishes, and I think that's exactly what Naiyou has done, and we're going to have to see if he can do it again. Creme could be the next target in the mid lane, but again, hard for Doinb to follow up.
As we get a look at the champion records on each of these players specifically throughout this split, not a ton of experience on this Qiyana for Kanavi. This split specifically, but obviously here is practiced on the champion. Most notable for me, the 6-1 record for Creme on this Annie. On a champion that is able to execute easily and simply in team fights, that is where this player is really able to shine after already being one of the stronger laners we have in the league.
Yeah, Creme has really looked comfortable on Annie in terms of the way that the setups go. Playing alongside Kanavi has been massive for TES's resurgence in the second half of the year. See if they can do it again as Niket and Leaf continuing to get poked out here under tower. Still only sub 5 minutes into the game. Dragon is spawning in about 5 seconds, but Grub's 3 minutes away. Plenty of time for Niket and Leaf to farm up here under tower and start to generate some gold. See how aggressive TES maybe wants to play this, but with Naiyou on the top side, once again, I think it's just going to be a shadow.
I mean, now you see Kanavi likely going to get spotted unless he weaves the vision through perfectly. Okay, gets spotted by that trinket there, which means that both Doinb knows something is coming, and maybe NIP can make something happen on the top side of the map. Tibbers being utilized very nicely by Creme, and that means that Doinb will go down before even unlocking level 6. Top Esports finally getting on the board.
There's your level 6 advantage in the mid lane, where Creme's just able to say, all right, here's a bunch of burst damage, and Kiana gets a free kill. Obviously, the ward, would hopefully have kept Doinb safe, but it's a tough place to be in. 369 taking advantage of his ult advantage as well by pressuring Solokill out of this lane, shoving the wave in. Pretty traditional trades, but it's nice for Top Esports to get some gold back, specifically because it's going on Kanavi.
And this is one of the biggest nerfs that Rumble got here on this recent patch. On the passive, a little bit less of that max HP damage on the overheated auto attack. So as a Rumble in the laning phase, you used to be able to overheat quickly, burn through some of these tanks with both your Flame Spitter and your overheated combos. Both of that got nerfed, and so it means that 369 going to have a bit of an easier time in lane, as you're seeing here, especially now that he's able to stack a little bit of magic resist early, still has 3 biscuits in his inventory. It's going to be a very tough target here for NIP to burn down, and another player that has been very consistent on champions like the Ornn, 3-0 on it this season.
369, the weak side king from back in the JDG Super Team days. We know he can carry. We know he can roll the 9s, but this guy is also very, very good at playing his own individual role. He's going to be really important towards this Compass Disruption in the later part of the game to try and get onto the Kai'Sa and potentially even start fights. But right now, it's Naiyou who's starting up on the Dragon. This should be a free take here for Ninjas in Pyjamas, unless Kanavi wants to play really aggressive and try to contest this. But with a minute left on the spawn for Grubs, this should just be an advantage to NIP.
NIP going to send Doinb up the top side to catch that wave that is getting shoved in by JackeyLove and Hong. The cost, of course, is that leave, and Niket gets to now rotate towards the mid lane. So we're playing, I don't even know, musical chairs with our lane assignments here in this game number 1, Kman. It's really everyone feeling pretty comfortable and able to rotate around the map to make sure that their carries are put in the best positions possible.
I mean, this is what happens when you get a you get a hook onto the mid lane here.
Oh, and the Tibbers and misses. That's a big cooldown now gone for Creme, who is now in a tough spot, especially if Niket is able to land another one of those dredge lines. He's been very good on this Nautilus here in game number 2. Nice little interaction here as Creme is using Tibbers to make sure that Niket is unable to land another dredge line onto him. Able to get back to base very nicely, but hey, that's another cooldown utilized here on NIP's side. They're going to use it to get some control in the mid lane.
Yeah, that's actually really consequential because Grubs are up now. And so if you do want to fight over these, you don't actually have Tibbers to be able to make that exchange happen as efficiently. Luckily, because you have that shove on the top side, because it's a 2v1 lane, you are able to get it relatively for free. We'll see if they want to make the rotation up, but right now Kanavi is just getting these Grubs for free. Doesn't really look like there's going to be a ton of contest. Vision's coming down, but it's too late.
Yeah, they see it now. They might be able to sneak away one, but Kanavi still has his smite available, and Naiyou has not gotten his upgraded just yet. That's an easy 3 grubs secured here for Top Esports, who have been able to recover nicely after losing that first kill. Doinb using the unstoppable onslaught to go forward, but not able to find a target. His flash away from Hong allows for him to survive.
Yeah, it's very slow from NIP. They just don't have the wave states to actually step up and contest at the Grubs, and that's a huge problem. Giving that over to Top Esports, again, it kind of plays into their own win condition of being able to really snowball the game through like these skirmishes in the mid game, the 8 to 15-minute time frame. If you're going to give a lot of things over and this big gold lead over for free, that is a major issue. So very big win for Top Esports and a really good job from Kanavi to get that done.
And we like the team fighting and the scaling here for NIP in general, if Leave's able to get ahead, and if, of course, Doinb's able to get super tanky. But Top Esports, again, do not have an early game you can scoff at either. And even the bottom lane, which was the position where a lot of kills, a lot of gold was given over to NIP, now even in terms of resources, as JackeyLove's been able to recover nicely, still take advantage of the double-range bot lane that he has alongside Hong, he's going to have no problem being able to match somebody like Leave once we get later on into this game.
Yeah, you really need to make sure that you're set up like well if you're an IP. It's not just, oh, I have, you know, Scion and Nautilus to frontline for my Kai'Sa and Rumble to do damage in the late game. You need to make sure that the gold is being generated and it's going on the right members, especially because JackeyLove is going to be in a relatively good spot here alongside Kanavi. So completely agree that you definitely need to start putting your foot to the pedal at some point. And unfortunately, it's Leave who's once again just going to get chunked for so much of his health bar by Creme's combo.
Not a super consequential Tippers, but it does make sure that Leave us to be a little bit careful about specifically Kanavi coming into this mid lane now. As you see him hovering in the area. Dragon not up for another 2 minutes, so Creme should have Tippers by the time that spawns again. They would want to make sure that NIP does not get off to an early Dragon stack, although they are doing a nice job just picking up farm, picking up plates in certain areas. That gold lead sneakily up to 1.5K at this point.
Yeah, and look where a lot of it is, or we can look in a second. It's about a 30 CS lead in the jungle here for Kanavi on the Qiyana. It's pretty massive. Naiyou has really spent a lot of resources protecting Leave and making sure he's in a good spot and making sure his laners are all right, but Kanavi has really been able to generate a pretty sizable advantage on his own. Same thing for Creme in the mid lane, which we did highlight. You know, Doinb's weakness could potentially be his 1v1 ability, especially because he's been really taken out of that lane and kind of forced to catch waves. Weak side definitely be a situation where you're just kind of running out of minions to get, as we see some posturing down on the bot side for Kanavi and for Top Esports. We still have a minute until that Ocean Dragon spawns. That will be pretty important. All cooldowns will be available. Creme's ult will be up for that. But it's Leave who's going in.
Yeah, knows that Creme doesn't have the ultimate. Oh, yeah, Kathy and Rain nearly taking down the mid laner of TES, but it's going to come at the cost of Leave's life. Kanavi swooping in to make it 2-2.
Yeah, it's a really big miscalculation coming in for Leave. Really wants to try and punish Creme, overextending, but the flash being burned, he has just enough health to survive Kanavi.
Supreme Display talent is still available, but Naiyou just cancels it with the Cataclysm, getting himself a nice shutdown and getting an IP back into this game.
It's chaos everywhere on the map right now. Grapes, we're seeing so much action happen. That's actually a really big kill for Naiyou, because as much as we can punish, you know, someone like Leave for getting caught out, it was early enough where he should be salvageable, but now it's Naiyou's turn to get Ornn ulted, but 369 could be in danger.
Coming down here as well, but it's going to cost him a mid lane wave if he goes too far forward, so instead NIP just going to get this top lane scuttle for free. Dragon now available on the bot side as well, and you can see that exactly where Doinb is headed. You can see he has the Unseal Spellbook on this Scion pick, so goes for the Ghost to potentially have some extra mobility here in these lanes, and it's going to allow for Naiyou to be set up to come down towards this Dragon. I think we might get a fight here, Kman.
I think so as well. Naiyou is posturing very aggressively. They need to start stacking these dragons. Is Kanavi even going to get here in time? It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's gone.
Picked up. That's 2-0 in the Dragon department, and Top Esports not in time to try and contest the objective, so they will give it up at the cost of keeping the gold lead in a relatively positive state for them. And now it looks like Creme's gonna get targeted. Nice flash attempt by Niket. Appreciate the effort at the very least, but it's not gonna find any gold here, as now JackeyLove gonna be in some trouble. Gets hit by the Roar of the Slayer as well as the EQ combo, but there's just not enough damage as JackeyLove able to transcend and make sure that Naiyou is taken out. And now here comes a teleport in. It's going to be Niket with the Spellbook joining the party. As 4 members of TES head down to the bottom lane to try to go for a dive. Pop Blossom only going to land on Niket. And I think at this point, Creme going forward with the Tibbers will be able to take the Nautilus down. And they can just wait for these tower to re-aggro onto the minions before going in once again. This time, the supreme display of talent will land onto Naiyou. And already it's a 2-0 in favor of Top Esports on the bottom side. Leave made his way down there to try and prevent another redive, but I think it's going to happen again as they wait for the minions to escort in. Only Doinb is alive, does not have his ultimate here, and will go down again to Kanavi. A beautifully executed play on the bottom side of the map for TES.
It's absolutely clinical the way that Top Esports utilize this Neeko to constantly generate gold leads. This is what the best teams in the world do better than anybody else. It's utilizing champions like Neeko to their fullest extent with their dive potential. You're staring down the barrel of 3 people bot lane, and you only have 4 under tower, and you go, yeah, that's fine. That's a fight we want to take. Even when Pop Blossom only lands on Niket, it all ends up working out. Again, it's perfectly layered. You know, Hong plays it really excellently on the Neeko, and then, man, what a play by Kanavi to be able to interrupt Naiyou getting out with that ultimate. Just really well done all around by TES.
I think the biggest thing for me was how patient they were on that dive. They waited for course, the turret to, I guess, cool down a little bit on the minions before going in 2 or 3 times on that extended play. And by it being able to pick off one after the other, NIP were never able to follow up. And, that's the sort of thing that can make or break some of these early games. And now TES with a 4,000 gold lead. This is kind of some of the stuff that they were struggling with in some of their losses earlier in the regular season. So very good, very clean play from them so far.
Yeah, I mean, they look great at the start of this game. They've generated a pretty huge gold lead for themselves, and that's exactly what they needed to do. Like, more specifically, about a 3K gold lead individually on the mid-jungle duo. We're seeing it.
It looks like another lockdown has come down onto Naiyou. Not able to drag away from his flag, as Creme will get his first kill of the game and set TES up nicely around the Rift Herald.
Another huge catch. Again, it's just taking advantage of resources, JackeyLove.
Flashes away from the depth charge, but Doinb's going to go in anyway. Killer Instinct to follow the unstoppable onslaught. And a nice return kill here for NIP. It's going to come, though, with Kanavi and 369 diving this front line of Ninjas in Pyjamas. Solokill taken down very low, and Creme will take down Leave on the backside as well. The Rumble is still alive, but now Creme going to be in some trouble, but he will not go down just yet until Doinb flashes after him. But the Annie is still going to survive. Dodge the way, and Creme will live. Kanavi takes down Niket on the backside, and it should be an extended 4 kills in for top esports, and Doinb could still be on the menu. Naiyou has come back from the death chamber though, and now the top side of the map for NIP looking to make something back happen here. A teleport has come back in as Creme regenerated back to full HP and looking to rejoin the Herald.
It's so much chaos, Grapes, and it's always coming out in favor of top esports. They look phenomenal in these big exchanges. Creme is positioned perfectly throughout this entire fight. We're going to get a replay of how this ended up starting. He just bursts down Naiyou, immediately drops his full combo alongside the Pop Blossom. There's no way to get out of that for the Jarvan, and all of a sudden the Rift Herald is on the menu. And at this point, TES, they feel comfortable to walk up. NIP don't want to give this over, though. Even without their jungler, they feel like they can take advantage of the fact that JackeyLove's a little far forward. The problem is the rest of the team is collapsing. The equalizer gets dropped and so many resources get used to take down the Yunara that by the time the rest of this fight goes down, they just don't have the health bars. Leave gets taken down by Creme, who's basically untouched on the back end here. Creme gets that double kill there on top of Solokill and even gets out to safety as well. Really just a beautiful turnaround for top esports. Kanavi, Creme, 369 all playing brilliantly. They grab the Herald for it. They're in a really dominating position here in Game 1.
And after things went so well for Ninjas in Pyjamas in the early game, they are now down over 5,000 gold as TES looking very strong at the 17-minute mark of this game. The Dragon spawning right now. Chemtexel has built the Rift. That's the one advantage that NIP have at this point. Getting this one here with secure soul point, at the very least, they're going to be able to use the Dragon advantage that they have right now. At least stall the game out a little bit further, but TES able to continuously add to their lead. Herald popped in the mid lane, taking down that tier 1, and they use that pressure to secure this Dragon, unless NIP have something to say about it. It's a teleport coming in from Doinb, but it's in a very deep position as 3 members of TES have already gone onto him and forced him backwards. He still has the ultimate, and the Dragon positioning is actually now controlled by NIP. Dredge line misses from Niket, and now the battle lines have been drawn. Call the Forge God has come out. 369 looking here for Leave, but does not find. He flashes away from the Pop Blossom as well, and Solokill's the only one to take the brunt of the damage. On the backside, though, Naiyou's in significant danger as Kanavi flashes after him and takes his opposing jungler down. Doinb looking to cut off JackeyLove, but the Yunara has been transcended, has been unlocked, and should be able to slowly take down this Scion unless he's able to run away. Overall, it's a 2-for-1 in favor of TES, and they should go right back to the Dragon to claim the first one for them.
Huge fight there for top esports when you're looking at ways for NIP to get back into this game. Dragon was the only one. The soul is really what they're playing for here, in TES just outclassing them in this fight. Kanavi diving on top of Naiyou, expending so many resources to kill that Jarvan and to take away everything from the fight. It's another really nice engage from 369. Hong's ultimates have, landed on 1 or 2 targets, but they can be pretty heavy priority targets as well, and so it's ended up really working out for TES. You can see how this ends up starting. They want to layer it on top of the Rumble, but making sure that the equalizer, when it's dropped, is really delayed here is huge. Even if Hong is going to trade his life, you're happy to do that in favor of Naiyou on the other side, and especially if it's Naiyou and Niket. So at this point, JackeyLove just gets to free hit throughout the entire fight, and even if the Yunara isn't as fed as maybe you would want, still going to be a massive problem. And with a 6-kill Kiana, a 4-kill Annie, the damage very much online for top esports.
Just a huge game, number one, from your mid-jungle of top esports. We talk a lot about what NIP do to win games in Group Nirvana. Naiyou has to be ahead for them to find success, and clearly that was not the case despite the first blood going over to them, the first 2 kills going over to them with the help of this Jarvan the 4th. Kanavi establishing himself by clearing out camps at the topside invade immediately after that first clear allowed for him to really snowball this lead. He's now almost 3,000 gold ahead. And yeah, you just take a look at the formula for NIP. Right now, Naiyou is not ahead, and that means they're in a very dangerous spot.
Yeah, it's a scary spot for sure for NIP. You definitely don't feel great about the situation. I don't think it's unwinnable. You still do have a Kai'Sa that could potentially take over a fight. One good Rumble equalizer can really make things difficult for the side of TES, but it's basically got to be perfect. And now with Otacon taken down very low, it doesn't even look like it's going to be contested. Nope, it looks like almost everybody's zoned off. It's just for free. You know, top esports take a lead that was already massive and grow it to even further proportions.
And smart for them to make sure that they do not just throw the game at this point, although now top esports invading the jungle are going to look for a play, but instead it's Naiyou who's able to lock down the backline, but nobody will go down on TES's side. Doinb in far too late. He'll be able to take down Kanavi, but JackeyLove is still untouched on the backside of the fight, dashes forward and takes Doinb down. It's another team fight win for top esports. They get that and the Otacon as a 2-for-1 special.
I can't even begin to think what NIP were doing. You give Otacon for free, you fight in the jungle, you try and dive Naiyou the backline here with that Cataclysm to trap them in, but did you forget, man, there's no damage on NIP right now. You don't have any ways to break through. We're going to get it in a replay. This is just over-eager. They feel like they're trapped within this jungle, but when Naiyou goes in, you know, he feels like, okay, well, we can burst down Creme, or we can burst down JackeyLove, leave even ults in, but he just instantly dies because he gets CC chained into oblivion, and at this point, there is no fight. You've lost your primary engage, and you've lost your AD carry, who's supposed to be doing all the damage. Just goes from bad to worse for Ninjas in Pyjamas, but it's top esports once again, absolutely exponentially growing their lead with that Otacon and with the fight win.
I mean, if you're going to give the Otacon up, I respect that. You're down pretty far, try to scale up or whatever. No reason to try to start a fight. I mean, I understand the logic, as theoretically that's an illegal position for top esports to be in, but everything's legal. There's no laws in the land when you're up 7,000 gold. You can kind of do whatever you want, and we very clearly saw that happen here. Naiyou had a great ulti onto Creme, not able to take him down because they are just not ahead enough, and they don't have enough damage at this point to kill anybody on TS's side, and we saw it there in that last fight. Unless this game goes to a very extended position, NIP going to have a very difficult time coming away with a Game 1 win.
Definitely a tricky spot for them as NIP try to gain some control of their jungle. You know, I think JackeyLove might have taken the skin choice from Leave a little personally, and perhaps played a bit more aggressive this game on the Yunara. He's sitting at so 2 items now. Kiana's sitting at 3 items. Yeah, no, definitely a little fun side plot there, but JackeyLove getting the best of it, at least right now, as they push into the mid lane for this tier 2.
Again, they feel confident enough to go for anything at this point. We have not seen too much of that team fighting combo here for NIP. This could be a good time to use it as the equalizer separating a lot of members, and in goes Naiyou. Hong, though, still gonna live until he finally gets taken down by Doinb, who takes Creme down as well. But JackeyLove is still alive, and Kanavi displays his talent supremely on the entirety of NIP. Only Niket's left alive, as NIP thought they had a pick, but it's gonna come at the cost of 4 of their members dropping to top esports.
Well, Grapes, if you can't win that, you can't win a lot. I think that looked like such a good setup for NIP. You trap 3 members with the Cataclysm into the Rumble equalizer, and even then, JackeyLove still able to take over. Dragon is on the menu now for Kanavi, really putting it out of reach for NIP, delaying that even potential soul for basically a non-existent amount of time. But we're going to see in this replay, it actually starts off really well. The ult coming down onto Hong is huge. Him getting caught out here is a really big problem. The equalizer is massive onto JackeyLove and Creme, and getting trapped in this is huge. Like, there's really no other way to describe it, but Naiyou just doesn't have the health bar to be able to really do much once he's trapped them in, and the fact that JackeyLove survives this is truly exceptional. Really just a bit of a wallet dip there as he takes him down, and there goes Naiyou again.
I think Leave got stunned on his way in with the Killer Instinct, and that was a big reason as to how JackeyLove survived that fight. Could have been a lot closer than it ended up being if just that little interaction went the other way. But regardless, Top Esports not going to be complaining about that. They're now up almost 10,000 gold. They got Baron spawning in about 10 seconds. Should be able to take it effectively on spawn if they so choose. So we now have 3 full items on JackeyLove, almost 3 here on Creme, and that's a 4th item right now on Kanavi, as obviously the assassin items have been buffed a little bit in terms of their cost, but now looking for another pick here onto Niket. Hong and JackeyLove poking him out. Baron is now spawned, and Top Esports control the top side of the jungle.
Unfortunately for NIP, I think that they have learned that they no longer have access to their own jungle, that this is Top Esports' land to roam, and they are roaming it. They are certainly stepping up. They don't want the Baron, they want some kills.
Going for a pick on the Doinb. He's a tanky Scion. Will he be tanky enough? Finding a knock-up now on to Kanavi. They should be able to take the Qiyana down, but a 3-man Pop Blossom comes through from Hong and allows himself to give his AD carry a double kill. Solokill goes golden, forced to flash away. Already 4 members down for Ninjas in Pyjamas as Top Esports win yet another fight.
It, again, looks like an okay setup for NIP, but they're so far behind, and then they get really separated as that fight continues to go along. I think the most emblematic thing of this game is that Creme ends up solo killing Leave on the end of that fight, as everybody else basically dukes it out as JackeyLove, bursts down the tanks. But once again, it's Top Esports coming out on top. They're going to get the Baron as a reward, and now I think the end of this game is becoming a bit of a formality. It's a 10k gold lead for TES at 25 minutes, and they've looked just about as good as you could possibly hope in game number 1.
We said TES's mid-game was their strength, and we clearly saw it here in game 1. Again, Naiyou is finding good opportunities, but he's just too far behind at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no way here. Leave has to pop the cleanse so early, and then the Pop Blossom from Hong really sets JackeyLove up well. At this point, if the Unara is able to free fire, it's going to be a pretty free fight for TES. Not to mention the fact that Annie is just killing the 1 carry on the other side by herself. You don't even need your primary damage dealer to take care of that. So, definitely a bit of a problem there as we get another teleport actually coming in to the top side here with this Baron. They want to play this game fast, and they want to end it quick.
Yeah, unrelenting pressure for TES now that they have the Baron buff in their hands for 2 minutes still at this point. Looks like NIP are going to try to set up a bit of a death rush here with Doinb and Naiyou, but there's not many people they can kill with just the 2 of them at this point in the game, as we see continuous stacking of items. Now Leave going to get 1 shot here by Kanavi. That wasn't even close, as Leave will go down, and that should mean the game is now over. Pop Blossom lands onto 2. Naiyou in some trouble, but it'll come at the cost of Hong. JackeyLove now free firing under the tier 3 turn while the tier 2 is still up. But Top Esports do not care. They have a wave in, and they have an easy opportunity to send themselves straight down the mid lane and end this game number 1 right here.
Top Esports send a message in game number 1. They should not be taken lightly in series like this. They're the number 1 seed for a reason, and they're going to be moving on to game number 2 as emphatic winners. And a 1-0 start is exactly what the doctor ordered for this team. Brilliant stuff for TES all around. Everyone deserves a lot of praise for that game.
And that was after potentially the worst possible start that they could have had. Giving up first blood to a level 1 invade here, or level 1 find by Niket, and following that up with JackeyLove dying in the first 3 minutes after an early gank down bot by Naiyou. But Top Esports took that sticky situation and turned it into something very good for themselves, notably for Kanavi on the Qiyana jungle, able to get that successful invade, get himself a camp lead, and he never looked back from that point. And Top Esports looking dangerous right now, especially early on in this best of 5.
Yeah, you want to go for those plays in the early game. If you're NIP, you want to get Kai'Sa gold, you want to get Jarvan gold, you want to make sure you can start snowballing the game, but there's a thin margin for error there that just, you got to make sure all your ducks are in a row. And unfortunately, Naiyou was never able to recover from the fact that he got a kill in the early game. It really ended up torpedoing a lot of his tempo, and that's what it comes down to. That's what Top Esports in particular is really good at. You don't want to give them an inch because they will take a mile.
And it is interesting that that is the draft decision that NIP went for, going for Jarvan Scion as their mid jungle. In isolation, I like each of those picks, in a way, but making Naiyou be the supportive, engaged player for his team after we've seen so many games of him on the Viegos, on the Lilias, being the main carrier almost here for NIP. It felt a little bit off here, and even though I like the combination of the Jarvan with the Rumble, we didn't see that combo utilized very well in that game. Going forward, I like the idea of keeping Doinb on his push and roam champions, but you need something that does a little bit more in the jungle if you want that to succeed here for NIP.
I think the real big problem for me with this draft is you really want to make sure you win lane. Like, you really want to make sure that you're in a spot where you can at the very least stay neutral, and that these fights, like, you know, they were going into these, you know, grub fights and dragon fights down 1k gold just from laning, like just from getting outmapped. You know, everybody was moving everywhere. You had mid laners in the top lane, you had, you know, AD carries taking farm in the mid lane before grubs even spawned. Like, it was a crazy map state, and that really favored TES to be able to stabilize and kind of create their own tempo if they could go into those mid game fights with a gold lead. Yeah, I mean, you're Kiana, Annie, like, you're going to be able to take advantage of that. NIP just didn't really play towards their own win condition of generating that early advantage, and it eventually got to the point where they couldn't just outscale anymore. You're right, if this is going to be the way that they play, I want to see, you know, Naiyou on something that can carry, something that can make use of these early kills that he's so adept at getting, because in this game, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, to be fair, got that jungle pool pinched very heavily, but there was stuff available for them in the first rotation, that in the first phase of the draft, that maybe they could opt to go for a little bit later on in this series. But overall, have to give credit to Top Esports, specifically their top side of the map, as the name suggests. Say overall, Creme and Kanavi having terrific games. Don't know who to give the MVP to, though. Would it be Kanavi? Would it be Creme? Maybe JackeyLove sneaks in there as well, because it was pretty well played by everybody on that side.
Honestly, just kind of felt like a dominating game for Top Esports. I think you could realistically give it to anybody. Maybe Kanavi gets a few points taken off of the level 1. Outside of that, I think he's certainly a bit of a favorite for a lot of people. JackeyLove was the huge damage dealer. Creme had all the setups. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of those three. You know, I don't think it was a perfect game. There were a couple of pop blossoms that I think could have been a bit better from Hong, landing on 1 or 2 priority targets. But at that point, you're really nitpicking. Like, you're looking for things to criticize TES for. Kanavi was just always in the right place at the right time, and, you know, we can talk about Kiana having an easier game because of all the setup. Well, it became easy because of how well Kanavi played the early game.
We take a look at some of these highlights here. Again, this was a fight that really just ended the game. It's a good find overall, but again, just have to consider the state of the gold, and after giving up the Otacon, going for a fight like this, definitely a bit of a questionable decision, but perhaps NIP feeling a little bit desperate at this point. Of course, did not result in them coming up with a win in any sense of the word. And after this, pretty clear that Top Esports had control of the game, and we just get to watch a bit of a highlight montage of what Kiana Jungle is able to do.
Yeah, this play looks awesome for NIP. Like, this is like what you draft Jarvan Rumble for, is this setup where you trap 3 people in the equalizer, and you're just like, I've done it, I've done my job, and then here you die, and everything just goes wrong. Oh,
stunned on his
that
way
is
in.
so close, and he immediately gets taken. You're absolutely right. Like, maybe things change. I still think JackeyLove maybe has enough of a health bar to, you know, be able to make that work. He wasn't stunned quite at that time. Either way, it's the thinnest of margins, right? And that's still, like, that's the perfect fight. That's the perfect setup from that point in the game. You can't ask for more, and it still was like, well, I hope, you know, Leave doesn't get stunned. Like, that's the kind of margin that NIP had put themselves in. You can't be digging holes like they did early on in the game. You can't be giving over so many resources, because it really came back to bite them.
And goodbye to Leave. And yeah, that was a position that we saw Top Esports, you know, we thought that they would have the advantage in their lane, specifically in the mid lane with Creme. But in this Game 1 draft, you have double range into, you know, a Kai'Sa Nautilus, which is very low range, and you have Ornn able to basically soak up any damage that Rumble is able to provide, especially with the recent patch. And that means that given already the individual skill on the players of Top Esports, they are able to utilize the matchups as well to create really good lanes for themselves, and able to snowball that out of control with how they were able to play the mid game successfully. And so for NIP, a little bit more focus on making sure that you do not fall that far behind in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game will be very important if they want to have a chance, because we saw it in some of those fights, though their angles were good, and if they can come into those games and come into those fights at a little bit of an even game state, there's a chance that they could pull off a game or two against TES and maybe even continue the upset. But if that's the way that these games are going, it's going to be Top Esports all the way.
Absolutely. I think, and even more so than just like, you got to take advantage of and capitalize on the game. You have to take advantage of your win conditions. Like you have to play towards where your strengths are. And in that game, they got a free first blood onto Kai'Sa, and they got another kill onto the bot side, really enabling the 2v2. And then Kai'Sa got no more pressure the rest of the game, was stuck under tower, could never really move, wasn't able to participate in any of the fights. You know, Leave was in a spot where he should have been able to snowball that game, and it just didn't really happen. You need to make sure that you're prioritizing giving resources and giving attention to the players who can utilize it. You know who did that this game? Kanavi, who I think has earned player of the game.
Forgiven for stepping forward in the river against 4 members of NIP, including a Nautilus. Who would have thought they'd be in that bush? And looks like Kanavi able to take advantage regardless of that first death. Making this Kiana champion look pretty strong, as it has for the last couple of weeks overall here in the LPL, and that results in Top Esports taking game number 1 of our upper bracket quarterfinal matchup against Ninjas in Pyjamas, your number 1 seed from Group Nirvana. Before we head to a short break, we want to give a quick shout out to all of our coffee supporters. If you would like to support LPL English, consider becoming a coffee member, as it is the best way to support the